The friendly confines were kind to Ohio State as the Buckeyes pulled away from Northwestern.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Locked On Buckeyes postcast after Ohio State's 31-7 win over Northwestern. This is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And this postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Simply visit FanDuel.com to get started. During this postcast, we'll discuss the turning point in this game, as well as unveil our players of the game for this game as well. But before we get to any of that, we got to dive into one thing that's been very, very clear from early in this game was that Ohio State was the better team, and the Buckeyes clearly pulled away from Northwestern. Early in the game, a lot of us saw Northwestern able to move the ball against Ohio State's defense, against the starters, against some of the backups on the D-line rotation. Northwestern was able to move the ball. And then all of a sudden, Ohio State said, literally, enough is enough. Y'all can move the ball a little bit, but y'all are not going to get in the end zone as much as you would like. And the next thing you know, it was over. Ohio State scored 31 unanswered points. The lone touchdown that Northwestern scored was, I believe, in the first quarter. It was an 8-yard quarterback run by Jake Losh, who was a good quarterback. If he was on a different team and just had more sound play all around, he would be respected in the Big Ten. But when I saw him before in preparing for the game, preparing for the show, and trying to break down Northwestern's team, I saw a quarterback that could move a little bit. Saw a quarterback that had a decent arm. And at times we saw that today. But we also saw a team in Ohio State that when they wanted to say enough is enough, that was it. They made it with their play. There was a blocked punt that was a big key moment in the game. There were some key catches. Quinshon Judkins scoring a couple touchdowns definitely helped the Buckeyes get into somewhat of a groove. Defensively, those guys, man, they were in the backfield a lot during this game. The friendly confines, which I was a little bit on edge about playing in a baseball stadium, but when I saw the stadium and when I saw the aerial shots of playing in Wrigley Field, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm here for this. I'm also here for what we got from Ohio State today. This is what you want from a team that has national championship aspirations. Before the season, they all talked about natty or bust. In the middle of the season, everybody's talking about natty or bust. And then towards the end of the season, when November is for contenders, and we all know that to be true, this is the moment where Ohio State must show everybody. It doesn't matter if we're playing in a football stadium, it doesn't matter if we're playing in the shoe at home, or if we're playing in a baseball stadium in Wrigley Field. We are going to rise to the occasion and pull away from our opponents. And Northwestern's one of those teams throughout portions of this game. We saw Northwestern able to move the ball in. Once again, the corners, they're not just getting exposed for things. They were exposed to this early in the season in the non-conference slate. We realized if Marshall can do this, if Aiden Childs at Michigan State can do this, then, of course, Jake Losh at Northwestern, of course, Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, they'll be able to take advantage of Ohio State's guys as well. But then there are moments that when, I don't know if it was Jake Losh running or who had the ball at this moment in time, but Jack Sawyer had a forced fumble recovered by Davison Igbinosun. There were times that you got key catches by Jeremiah Smith, by Emeka Egbuka, by Carnell Tate in his hometown. You got some things done on offense that kind of help you pull away. And in key moments like this on the road, and everyone knows it's tough to win in the Big Ten. And the last time this team went to Illinois, it was Evanston, not Chicago. But the last time they went to Illinois, it was one of those games that everybody wanted to forget. Possibly the worst passing game that Stroud ever had in Columbus, Ohio, as a Buckeye was at that day at Evanston, Illinois. Possibly one of the worst games that Ryan Day's teams ever played, as far as statistically, was that day in Evanston, Illinois. Now you're in Chicago, hear about the weather, hear about the overcast skies, hear about the abnormal situations, about the long walk from the locker room to the field, that you're going to a different place for halftime. We hear about all these things that could get Ohio State to not do things, to not do what they need to do, to get them off of what their normal routine is. The routine was different. The outcome was the same. The Buckeyes won 31-7. And for people out there that are looking at the players and saying, do they have what it takes to continue to beat teams? And since Oregon, they've only given up 2 touchdowns, and those are touchdowns in the red zone. Well, I believe they're both quarterback runs too. I forget to be exact, but I feel like Dylan Raiola's touchdown in the fourth quarter when Nebraska was trying to make that game and try to win the game, I believe that was Dylan Raiola scoring on a run. So you have a run by Raiola. You have a potential run. You had, I believe, a rushing touchdown against Nebraska. You got a rushing touchdown today. What you're finding is, even though Ohio State's pass coverage is suspect in certain areas, not all, just in certain areas, nobody's able to throw the ball. Now, if you're thinking about Indiana and Curtis Warwick and Elijah Surratt and some of those other guys that are there for the Hoosiers offense, those are things we're going to talk about throughout the week. But here on this college football Saturday in the middle of the day, it's Ohio State winning, even though there were some things that didn't go their way. And this is what you want. You want Ohio State to be able to win games like this. Different circumstances, different scene. Everything about this day, this weekend was different. And Ohio State still found ways, and they were still able to cruise. There were some passes that Will Howard threw that weren't okay. Will Howard's day, this wasn't one of his better days, or statistically, only a 63% passer today, 247 and 2 touchdowns today. A passer rating was pretty good, at 176.5, but he wasn't really having the day where he was completing his first 7 or 8 or 9 passes. That wasn't today. He had 1 rush for 0 yards. It was just like, is this the old Will Howard coming back, or is this just a different Will Howard because of the circumstances? We'll see about that next week and the week after, and maybe the week after that, assuming that Ohio State wins the next 2 games and plays in the Big Ten championship. But I'm glad we got a pull-away game. It's very comforting to know that Ohio State wins and they scored 31 straight points. Made a field goal. You had 2 touchdowns by Quinshon Judkins. You had 2 touchdowns by Carnell Tate. You're doing a lot of things right. Even Jeremiah Smith going out with an injury, apparent injury when he got tackled in a very abnormal way. Ohio State still was comfortable because you got Carnell Tate. You have Emeka Egbuka. Literally, your wide receiver 3 is a number 1 receiver on almost any other team in the country. Now, maybe Ryan Williams and Carnell Tate would have a battle for wide receiver 1 down there in Tuscaloosa. But for the most part, maybe Luther Burden and Carnell Tate may have a battle. But for the most part, Ohio State's third receiver is a starter at almost every other school in the country, which is why they're comfortable giving him the ball more and targeting him more. Tate had 6 targets. Jeremiah Smith had 7. Emeka Egbuka had 4. Henderson had 2 targets, and then G. Scott Jr. and Brandon Ennis both had 1 apiece. Spreading the ball out a little bit, getting some more guys involved. I mean, we can just go down the line, man. Defensively, if you hold a team to 1.7 yards a pop and only 201 passing yards, you're probably going to win the game. You're probably going to win the game. That's exactly what happened. Northwestern only had 50 rushing yards today, couldn't get anything going, and Ohio State said enough is enough. We're going to pull away. You can score early in the game, but that's all you're going to get. Because Northwestern even struggled. Now, they were moving the ball a little bit at times, somewhat maybe a little bit too easily, but Ohio State made plays. Ohio State said, no, we're going to take advantage of the areas that we can take advantage of and just keep moving the ball and putting the ball in the end zone. Now, there was a key moment in this game that was a turning point in the game, which is a big reason why Northwestern's offense kind of fizzled out after that. We'll discuss that next. This postcast is brought to you by our friends over at Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. from legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more. Save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. Thank you all for tapping into this live postcast after Ohio State's 31-7 win over Northwestern. And in any game, no matter if it's a game against Clemson in 2019 or a game against Clemson in 2020 or a game in Wrigley Field today, there is a turning point. Maybe it's early in the game, you get off the bus and you realize, hey, nothing they can do. We're going to just ramp this thing up. Or maybe in a game like today when Northwestern's had a little bit of success, they were dominating the time of possession. They actually had the ball longer via the time of possession than Ohio State today. Ohio State kind of had to do something a little bit different. They had a big play on special teams, which ultimately was possibly the turning point in the game. There was a stretch where Ohio State scored twice with 3 offensive plays, but smack dab in between the first offensive play and the second offensive play was a very big play on special teams that was kind of helped up by a blunder by Northwestern. Northwestern snapped the ball, a high snap on the punt. The Northwestern punter had to run back to get the ball off the ground. Who was right there in his face? A guy who I say is a playmaker. Y'all probably know who it is. Y'all been around here for a while. Caden Curry was right there in his face. I don't know how he didn't tackle him. I have no idea. Caden Curry, I saw a still shot of that, wrapped him up, and I'm thinking, hey, yeah, take him down. Yeah, good job. No, the punter somehow wiggled his way out, punted the ball. It was blocked. The ball went out at the 1-yard line. Now, the punter at Northwestern should have kicked the ball out the back of the end zone, had a safety, but instead Ohio State got the ball in the 1, didn't score on the first time. They first snap on second down, the Buckeyes go into the end zone, and it was over. But once again, when Ryan Day has put an emphasis on the special teams, it's saying we need more from special teams. We need more here. We need more in this area. What did they do, at least in this moment? They got a big play on special teams. And Ohio State's, they could have said, now there were 3 guys there. I believe it was Caden Curry, Gabe Powers, and I want to say David Adolph, but don't quote me on the third player. I do know Powers and Curry were there. The third player was a key guy. He's the one that hit the ball. So you hit the ball, goes out on the 1-yard line. Ohio State quickly scores. It puts 14 points on the board. Northwestern's like, oh, here we go again. We can't do anything. We can't get anything done. It's just very confusing. I'm scratching my head. But that is what happens when you're playing teams like Ohio State. If you want to beat one of the best teams in the country, those mistakes can happen for Northwestern, but when you're one of the best teams in the country, you must capitalize on that opportunity, and Ohio State did just that. And going forward against Indiana and against Michigan, I'm looking ahead on purpose a little bit. I'm just going to talk about the next 2 games. Ohio State must continue to capitalize on moments like this and do things via special teams to kind of make sure things are the way that they need to go. Quinshon Judkins had the first touchdown on a 1-yard run, got the second touchdown in this sequence on a 1-yard run. Ohio State goes up 14-7. And I think just that quick turnaround of score, Northwestern's driving up, no, block punt, up, score. Northwestern's like, we know the half is almost over, but the game basically is over at that point in time because they couldn't get anything going. This is what Ryan Day's been trying to push for. This is what Ryan Day has been striving to have. Ryan Day has been pushing for special teams to be bigger in Ohio State games. The Buckeyes special teams at times has been a little iffy. You had 3 kicks in a row getting kicked out of bounds. You had multiple missed kicks earlier this year, and all of a sudden it's like, no, we're tweaking things. There hasn't been a missed field goal since. Has not been a kick kicked out of bounds since. You're getting, I think, a block punt a week ago by Caden Curry. This week, Caden Curry was in the mix of another block punt by Ohio State. All of a sudden, what else are you doing? Tweaking things with special teams on the return game. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Henderson being back there in the return. However, if you think he gives you a better opportunity, at least in that moment, to return the kickoffs, he has shown the ability to be a one cut and go kind of guy I can understand that. I think Ibuka is a better guy for that than Travion Henderson. But in the open field, both of them guys are deadly. And then today, once again, you saw Caleb Downs back there to return punts, which I think has been something they should have been doing all along. But I don't think Indiana next week is going to try to kick the ball to Ennis or Downs or Ibuka or whoever is out there, because they know all it takes is just one missed tackle, and one of them fast dudes is going to get out. They going to get out, and you can't catch them. Why? They got that kind of speed. Jeremiah Smith today, not so much in this sequence, but Jeremiah Smith today once again showed everybody and their mama he has that kind of speed. If you're even, he's leaving. And there was a guy, I don't know if it was a linebacker or a safety, not really sure. Homie was even. And Jeremiah Smith left that cat real quick. Now, if it wasn't for the pursuit of multiple other Northwestern defenders, Jeremiah Smith would have cut inside and gone to the end zone. I mean, it would have been that kind of play because he just got that kind of speed. Speed kills, man. I love speed in football. I love speed in sports. I love speed on this team. Why? Because speed kills. One thing about Urban Meyer's teams, and he was at Florida specifically, was because they had insane speed. Now, Percy Harvin's a part of that. You had other guys out there that were a part of that as well. But speed kills. And Urban Meyer realized if you want to beat the elite of the elite, you got to have elite speed. And Ohio State has some dudes out there that got elite speed at multiple positions. Travion Henderson's one of them. Jeremiah Smith, I named the receiver. I mean, you got a guy on the bench in Kojo Antwi who may be faster than all of them. Just straight line speed. I'm just saying, man, speed kills. Caleb Downs, fast. Lathan Ransom's closing speed, great. Cody Simon and Sonny Styles, side on the sideline speed, amazing. Speed kills. And it showed up big today, but also the turning point in the game, it wasn't just because Ohio State was going to lose the game, was in jeopardy of losing the game. I don't think people on Northwestern side thought Ohio State was going to lose the game. However, they did have a belief that they could do things to win the game if they capitalize on the mistakes that they may force Ohio State to make, but that didn't happen today. Even a day when Will Howard didn't have the best passing day and things seemed very, very off at times, he didn't throw an interception. I don't believe anybody from Ohio State had a fumble. Ohio State did capitalize on the forced fumble by Jack Sawyer. And so when you think about turnovers and things like that, no, there were not the moments for Ohio State where they had multiple turnovers. They didn't have those. Northwestern did. Northwestern had the lost fumble. Northwestern was the one coughing things up. Northwestern was a big reason why Ohio State had a lot of confidence going out through this game. But also, as the Buckeyes pulled away, that sequence on the special teams, coupled with 2 touchdowns and 3 offensive plays, that's a big reason why the Buckeyes were able to pull away. And they should be having a lot of confidence winning a road game in an abnormal environment, even though kind of the scene was cool and the aerial shot was cool and somebody I talked about how cool the shots were of the aerial view of the football field inside Wrigley Field. Even said that some of the stuff there was really cool with things they were doing there at Wrigley Field. I'm here for that. I'm not the biggest fan of football being played in a baseball stadium, but I'm also not going to dodge the fact that it was kind of cool to see some of the shots of the game being played there, some of those aerial shots and pictures. It was cool, man. It's okay to admit that it was kind of cool to see that kind of stuff, while also saying it's not ideal, or maybe you're not a fan of football being played in a baseball stadium. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I also don't think there's anything wrong with what we got and kind of highlighting a few players for their play today, because there are 3 players that are going to be described as Locked on Buckeyes players of the game for Ohio State's 31-7 win over Northwestern. We'll dive into 3 players next. This postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. All the action goes down in two places, on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you all for tapping into this postcast after Ohio State's 31-7 win over the Northwestern Wildcats. We all know today was a homecoming for Carnell Tate. His hometown is Chicago. Also, it's a little weird for him as well because his mom was unfortunately shot via a drive-by. And I know coming home is great, but also you want some of your mama's cooking. You want some of the stuff that your mama brings to the table that kind of makes home. And unfortunately, his mother is no longer with us to enjoy those things with him. So I know coming home is tough, but also Carnell Tate, man, was a dude today. 4 catches, 2 touchdowns, 52 passing yards. He is the Locked On Buckeyes offensive player of the game for Ohio State's 31-7 win over Northwestern. And bringing the graphics back. I know for a few weeks we did talk about multiple players, or 5 or 6. Going back to the players of the game, offensive and defensive, kind of highlighting just a few specific players. And Carnell Tate's fun to watch, man. I mean, if you watch him play and you realize the length he has, the speed he has, the nuances with his route running that he possesses, it makes it really easy to fall in love with what he can do on the football field. But then when you see half of his catches are touchdowns, and his second touchdown catch, he had a full layout with full extension to catch it. I'm going to pull this graphic back up because it gives you a little picture of what he had to do to catch that ball. I love it, man. I love having Carnell Tate on the field. And he doesn't get derailed or rattled because Jeremiah Smith or Mecca Buka will get more attention, or they get more attention, or Henderson and Judkins may at times get the ball more. No, he doesn't get rattled. He's a good blocker on the perimeter. He's good at running all of the routes. He has the speed to beat you deep. He also has the ability to beat you at the line of scrimmage and press man, or maybe in the middle of the route if you're trying to run a cover 2 or cover 3, whatever it might be. He has so many different things to make his game so special, and we saw that today in different areas. And I'm glad Carnell Tate had this in his homecoming. If I was trying to do some bold predictions, which I did not, you could probably say that Carnell Tate would have been good to score an anytime touchdown. Now I probably would have said over 5 catches, probably would have had to put over 70 passing yards if I was trying to put some hard stock numbers on it. That neither one of those happened. It also didn't matter. It didn't matter that he didn't have 70 passing yards or 5+ touch receptions. It didn't matter at all. What mattered is he did what Ohio State needed him to do today, and that was it. That's all he needed to do. Coach Hartline, what y'all need from me today? Let me know what y'all need from me, and I'm going to go out there and get it done. So Carnell Tate did today. On the defensive side, now there's a couple of times, man, where we're putting out 2 guys that are co-defensive players of the game. We haven't really done that offensively for co-offensive players of the game, but this is not the first time we got 2 guys we got to highlight, and one of them, we're going to start up front in the trenches, is Jack Sawyer. 7 tackles, 3 quarterback hits, 1 forced fumble. He also had 2 sacks in this game as well. The forced fumble is memorable because of also who it was recovered by. But once again, another team's in the red zone, and Ohio State says, nope, you're not going to score on us. But those 3 quarterback hits are huge. And I believe in this game, Ohio State, I'm going to pull this up quickly. Those are his 2 sacks were not the only sacks Ohio State had today. The Buckeyes had 4 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. So the quarterback hits are aside from the sacks that Ohio State had today. So realistically, Jack Losh got hit 8 times behind line of scrimmage on pass plays, not counting the amount of times that he got tackled on non-pass plays or maybe via a fake he got hit. You're in the backfield a lot. And we have been pushing for Ohio State to do a lot more things. Sawyer did not have 2 sacks, excuse me. That was the next player we're going to talk about later on in the show who had those 2 sacks. But Ohio State's been trying to put an emphasis on getting more pressure, and also getting more tackles for loss. The Buckeyes had 6 TFLs in this game. So they're doing a lot of things right, man. When you try to re-engineer the defense and you got a guy, Mitchell Melton, who is a little banged up, didn't play today. He was rolled out for today's game, Tuimoloau, would he be the guy today? Would it be Sawyer? It was Sawyer's day. I'm here for it, man. This is what you want. And you want one of your leaders, one of your captains, a guy that could have gone off to the National Football League. You want him to step up in these moments. And you got it from him. Also, Sonny Styles continues to be a big piece of the pie for the Buckeyes defense today. Sonny Styles had 6 tackles. 5 of them were solo. He had 2 sacks. Those were also his 2 tackles for loss. He also had 2 pass breakups, and one of those pass breakups should have been an interception. And early in the year, it seemed like Sonny Styles was still figuring out how to play linebacker. Making that transition from safety to linebacker was one that we all thought was needed. However, there's still a growing pains, man. It's still hard to move from further out, maybe deep on defense, or further out wide on defense, and being inside the box consistently. That's a hard transition. And early in the season, it was a little bit harder for Sonny Styles. But what we have seen lately, him and Cody Simon are a nasty dynamic duo. From their ability to read and react from inside the box, to be able to go sideline to sideline, be able to be great in pass coverage, really being great, solid all-around linebackers. Those 2 guys together are nasty together. But also Sonny Styles, his growth as a linebacker, we're seeing it right before our eyes. And it makes me very, very confident that the one weakness on Ohio State's defense has now been one of their strengths because of the growth and the maturity of Sonny Styles. It's very hard to do a lot of things against these linebackers. The way you were able to trick them early in the year, you're not tricking them now because they understand what's being asked of them, and they're rising to the occasion consistently. And just like I say, Caden Curry's a playmaker. Cody Simon is too. Sonny Styles is a playmaker as well. He makes plays all game long. So from Carnell Tate to Sonny Styles to Jack Sawyer, these 3 guys were 3 guys that Ohio State asked to do big things on Saturday in the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. Forget the abnormal situation, the different field, all of the things that Ohio State could have leaned on to play bad football or to not play good football. They didn't do that. They weren't perfect. It wasn't a perfect day of football, but Ohio State saw a few guys rise to the occasion, and these 3 guys, and Tate and Sawyer and Styles, Sonny Styles that is, are the guys that rose to the occasion today. And it makes me very satisfied about the performance today because you want players to step up. You want a guy who's a wide receiver 3 at Ohio State that could be a starter at other places to stay poised, to rise to the occasion, to not allow things to get him off of what the plan is for the day. You want Jack Sawyer, who's a captain, who is a leader, to rise up to the occasion, and he consistently does that. You want Sonny Styles to grow in the way that he has this year, and his growth is shown in a big way on the film and on the games on Saturdays. It's clear and easy to see how good these guys are, how much fun they're having playing football together. And it's great to see today against Northwestern when the Buckeyes were clear favorites. They didn't cover the spread. Didn't matter. They got that win in convincing fashion, scoring 31 unanswered points, beating Northwestern 31-7. And I'm very glad that these 3 guys specifically continue to play better and better and better during this season because they're going to need those guys to play a lot more good football throughout the rest of the year. Thank you all for tapping into this live postcast after Ohio State's 31-7 win over Northwestern. For your second listen on this college football Saturday, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. My guy, Craig Sheeman, is the guy that puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been a Locked On Buckeyes postcast after a Buckeyes win over Northwestern. We'll see you next time.